been discussing policy, and we have been discussing policy problem, how to analyze it, how to find an issue, etc. But today is different. We have to do, we have evaluators and terms of identifying the challenges and suggest government what to do and what not to do. Yeah. But today is different. We are discussing more into solutions. How to put policies into this. And we have, I would say, the best man to talk about the topic who have implemented many difficult and challenging sites. And we have Mr Praveen Pardeshi, base, currently serving as the member of Capacity Building Commission of India and Mission Community. It's my privilege to take you all through this brief introduction. With 34 years of experience in Indian administrative service, Mr. Pardeshi has served in various senior roles. He managed the entire public infrastructure of Mumbai and led the task force for COVID-19 containment as the municipal commissioner of Mumbai. He has also served as the additional chief secretary to the chief minister of Mumbai. In addition to his administrative roles, Mr. Pardeshi has held several senior leadership positions in the United Nations. He was the global head of UNDP Geneva and senior coordinator of UNICR. Most recently, he worked on the Defeat NCD partnership under UNITA as the global program coordinator. Mr. Pardeshi holds a master's degree in social policy, participatory planning, and economic development from the London School of Economics. Prior to getting a master's degree in development economics from PSC, he was economics graduate from B1. It's indeed a privilege to have you, sir. Welcome on this special lecture as part of the program collaboration.
And then I informal introduction of when passing the commission form, the first question you ask yourself is why me? And then you say who else? The next question. So, and when I thought I convinced myself by me, who else? And when you see who else, they were discovery from drawing the commission. So, like all these people are there, and you also have to be part of this commission. So, that is the kind of. I have to take this color. This color. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So, it gave confidence, has a very difference in work. Gave me confidence that the lot which we look at the outside as tourists, it's very easy to throw stones and say something is wrong, this is not working, that is useless, everything is bad about the government. And you can never think about the other side. But you're all emotional activists. And my journey has been from emotional activism to evidence-based activism. And that is a long journey. But at heart, we're all emotional. the whole idea is we have a deal in our office. He tempers my abstractions and intellectualism with workable solutions. And I keep telling you the theory way what it is. So it's sort of a great combination. And Praveen carries such huge experience of getting things done. I say jokingly but operationally, saying that when he calls a meeting, the meeting is quick, crisp, and you will always have a to do actually. The people are in teams always have 10 things to do. Sometimes the state cannot match that speed. And so I don't believe it is 34 years. I'm sure lots of these critiques will say that there's two things. But I think that's what the government needs. And specifically, when the person has this urban issue, urban governance issue, rural development, to a lot of things is done for forests and environment and saving the tigers. I really try great learn for all of this. That you understand how data doesn't have to always be reports and publications and big studies that we do. But if you apply to the common sense, they pay enormous good that the system can do. And to me, he's sort of an example of that. And so I think it's a great privilege for you to actually share all the ideas. And very finally, we have never been able to see each other's electric thing. So today I made up my mind and said, come watch me, I'm going to just sit here and enjoy this game. Thank you so much.
And Dr. Babu has the responsibility to enjoy. So he is the chair of today's session. Yeah. Therefore, he is not chair.
You don't give I'm going to amazing. Okay.
So, please. So, let me again thank Balu. We have got such a mutual admiration club that we saw the name and all the work they have done for rural matters, the youth movement. I was so impressed and it was so inspiring to work with him. And of course, some of the challenges that all of us face working in India when we want things to happen, we face them commonly. A lot of us don't come up with the solutions, we struggle. So today, in the spirit of what we are, I looked at one of your profiles, and what I'm trying to do is to say how things can be made to work in the government also. So that's the most important. The second thing which I've done, which is not my picture, it is from an organization which Balu introduced to me, but that's something new which I learned. So I couldn't answer that question, but they answered the question for me. This is Illumine. So basically, in the government, when you are pure government, everything is set for us. Once you join, for the next 35 years, nobody can fire us. Our salary, there's nowhere in the world, the UN World Bank, nowhere it happens like this. Just go for it, yeah. So our salaries are fixed, promotions are fixed, and our pension after that. Whether you work, whether you don't work, mostly if you don't work, it's better because you make no mistakes. So very nice. So in such a situation, why should you do something which is different and contribute to make change and good things happen? And there isn't an easy answer to that. But the answer that Illumine helped us to find, we know it intuitively, they've brought it to the surface, is that there are two types of fruits. One is what we call the external fruits, our salary, our status, and all. But the important one is the inner fruit, the personal joy and satisfaction that you get of doing something good, which nobody can take away. That is soul satisfaction. So all the good work can be done from that. And in the spirit of that is what I'm going to speak about in the next, that in the government system it's difficult to get concrete and rational and objective rewards or incentives for doing good work. So if you can take that and accept that, in India we have a lot of philosophy of accepting the situation as it is. You can accept that and still think of the inner joy that you can get for doing something which is good, which only you can tell yourself. That's a lifelong inspiration to be continuously doing good things. Okay, that's the first one. Only 2-3 rules I'm going to say. The second part is they were telling you about LSC. So as we grow older, One of the things that happens to us, I don't know whether it's happened to you all, that after 23, 24, or 25, when I got into IS, I used to stop reading newspaper, and mostly whatever people would be saying, I would think that I already know all this stuff. And that was true also mostly. And by 30s, you feel you know everything, and there's nothing new to learn. That's a big problem. And so, and also it's because of the way things are taught in India, and how people get taught mostly regurgitate routine published stuff again and again. So if you are reasonably well read, you know everything about it. This is the only new thing that I learned, by the way, in middle life. And this is very important for me. It has determined my career half. So the first half was without this learning. The second half is with this learning. So what I learned, I was a very young CEO of a Jila Parishad in Amravati. If some of you are from Maharashtra, you would know Amravati is a very child malnutrition district and all. And then I was a district collector in Latur. And around all those times, because I joined the service, think I have to do something. Build houses for the poor, get good roads constructed, or get livelihoods. They have a target for below poverty line families to be covered. Just cover 1,000 families, 10,000 families. So we have done. And you notch it out yourself and get satisfied. What I learned is none of it matters. Whether we build the schools or we didn't build the schools, nothing changed. Whether we gave housing families under identity and assets or back rate or we didn't give it, doesn't change it. Only thing that matters is rules, rules of the game, institutions. Institutions in economics are not defined as we all understand institutions. Like identity is an institution colloquially. That's not in theoretical economics institutions. Institutions means rules of the game or formal and informal laws, regulations, which determine individual agents' actions. So, for example, if there is a law which says that dowry is prohibited, which it is, and then there is an informal customary practice, some, some boys from these castes will take a dowry. So that informal rule prevails, and that is rules of the game for, let's say, Indian society marriage. That's an institution. There is another institution when the regulational value of land, which is in the registration. You know that land has to be registered at 5 lakhs an acre. That is the value. So this is the formal rule. What is the informal rule? Actually, that land is 10 lakhs. So what we do? We pay 5 lakhs by check and 5 lakhs as cash. That informal rule is also an Indian rule. And these sets of rules and regulations on every sector, from medicine, health, roads, development, which determine. So that is on institutions. Now, the biggest discovery that was done, most economists, as Balu was telling me, quantitative. So, since economics became a Nobel Prize winning field, more and more mathematicians only get Nobel Prize. The reason for that is there is very little new intuitive knowledge which can be stated in words, which can be new, which can advance the frontier of economics. So there was no non-mathematical economist who gets a Nobel Prize in the last minute. The one who got it is Douglas North. He's an economic historian. And he answered one question. The question that he answered was, if today, he's talking around 80 years old, if today most countries, most organizations, most economic agents, firms, people, academicians, politicians know how some countries became rich, then why don't all the countries become rich? Because that's the basic rule in economics. That if one company comes up with a monopoly profit because it discovers, let's say, 2 cents a certain type of a car which doesn't need to use a battery, then all other companies innovate the same thing and come back and the price comes down to normal. So if you have the knowledge, then why this is no. Some countries continue to be rich and develop further and further, and others, despite having all the knowledge, putting in place all the policies which are emulating those countries which continue to stay poor. So this is a very big, let's say, dilemma. And this dilemma he resolved by saying because institutions matter. And the institution is not an organization, the rules are it. So the rules by which economic agents in America or Switzerland play the game are different from the rules by which we play. In Switzerland, if they had been practicing dowry, and if they knew that dowry cannot be eliminated by law, there is no Swiss law which would ever say dowry is bad, period. Because there is complete convergence between what is an informal regulation in people's behavior and what the law says. There is no divergence. So we want to make change happen, and we think by making a law, changes happen, we get this divergence. So I always joke, Indian good in which game? Okay, expected problem. But the world loves which game? Which is the favorite football. That's the problem. They're trying to play football to be on the world stage by rules of cricket. Doesn't work. They have just imagine that's what's happening to every one of our system. And so that's going to be my second point. These are the broad principles. First is that if you really have a dream and you believe in it, it comes true. The whole universe conspires to me. It happened for me, it happened for all of you. The second is elected representatives, which are very much maligned, are very important change agents, and we all need to work with very closely. Even the most elected politician is many times much better than a very honest civil servant. I discovered this while coming to that. The third factor is very that you need to work with using opposing forces. Do not become your that's the key. So every policy change, every implementation, benefits some, harms somebody else. We should know who it's harming and try to work with them. Ensure that they will still get the harm. Policy changes, there is no policy change, it doesn't harm anyone. Just take it. We have to be able to at least take their passive non-resistance to that change. That's the third rule. And that the fourth point is very key. And all of my talk is going to be on that. Knowledge driven, counter intuitive. Everything that you believe as a stated in public policy is actually wrong. Everything. Everything which is being done for the welfare of the poor is actually harming. In fact, the very opposite is doing good to them. The same is true for agricultural growth. The same. So counterintuitive things are important. The only example, the greatest example of counterintuition I can give you is, another economist got the Nobel Prize for not being very mathematical. He's an Indian economist. They got the Nobel Prize for only one thing. I mean, that's my interpretation. Just for one thing. Can anybody guess what it is? Social issues. Like, you want to focus me on the family.
So he narrated the concept of freedom, choice, development, and
Exactly right, sir. Like, Nobel Prize was not. It is not the Bengal family. This was from Bengal.
he talks about capabilities.
He talks about capability now. Again, he didn't get it. So when will the famine happen? When will people start dying of lack of food? Then yes, will the famine happen? But any time. What is it? What is food security? Yeah. Why not?
This is broad you have.
So this is one. Food production comes down, isn't it? Only thing he proved was in the year when the maximum number of people died in Bengal of famine, that year they had a bumper rise. It was the very opposite of fall in production. But still people died of lack of this. Not because the production was not there, but because they had been priced out of the market by the British government, appropriating a certain amount of price and putting it for their family needs and allowing the prices to shoot up so that most poor people could not afford. So this counterintuition, ये price का production तो बढ़ गया है, still people are saying is what production the lower place. If you said, oh, there was a huge amount of drop, rain did fall, production fell, and therefore 20 million people died. So there's some people from the press. There's somebody from the press in the book. The press also, I always tell, just don't give the routine story what it is. The opposite of the headline is mostly true, right? That's what makes the story. So, okay, the rest is all for others that we need to have. Now, the next problem I'm going to take up from here onwards, we start with about employment. And this is some tables I won't get into it right now. Let's look at this. We have Abhishek, Bhargav, Akshay, and Ankita. All of you are working on sectors, planning, etc. So, is Abhishek here? Yeah. And then there's Akshay. Akshay. Akshay and Ankita. So tell me, what do you think is the real thing why we are not able to create jobs and provide employment? And what would you like to do? Government. One thing, one truth is given for us that there is great degree of unemployment. Have you agree? In India, I mean, you see politicians everywhere. Everything else they are able to do. They are not able to create jobs because of lacking the skills, lacking the skills. But we have a big skill issue. And my problem is those who are skilled, why they are still not employed? Why are engineers unemployed? They have some skill. Anybody else? What do you say? Yeah. So my understanding is the aspiration, something lacking to make these skilled people employed. But tell me, if CBC job gives a job advertisement for a few for let's say 30,000 rupees a month, how many applications will you get? If CBC gives every so therefore people are there now looking for jobs. Forget CBC. Tata Steel gives us advertisement for we are talking about skills. So I'm saying skills is not the problem because if Tata Steel gives an offer for let's say their office boy, 5 posts they will get 100,000. So why we are not able to get it?
Sir, I would like to give few examples and then I try to. So, the today gap into the kind of skills required for IT. So, in IT, we see that there is a boom for the employment now, and the gap is around 21%. It means, let's say, if company is asking for 100 people, they are just getting 79. So this is the one scenario when we are saying that unemployment is issue. So this is there is a one sector where already there is lot many employment opportunities are there.
And can that 21% gap in the IT sector absorb 12 million on Australia deals?
So sir, coming to the next
Yeah.
So what?
So that's the number of people adding to the labor force every year, 12 million.
So now the next thing what they are seeing that they are not able to match the kind of skill set required for those kind of jobs. So maybe we are aiming that with this program to train people, to skill people, but the skill set which is required by the company is not matching the kind of skill we are providing to the.
But they are still producing and getting the people from somewhere.
So now what they are doing, they are training people, they are hiring.
Yeah, that person is getting the job finally.
So ultimately, what I'm saying is the kind of skill. I'm not saying only in the IT sector.
So your position would be right if, as Germany, if saying is right for Germany, it's not true for India. Please, around 2 million. Number will be bit up in number, it's million. Number of training technical positions which are going vacant in Germany now. And the same is true for Japan. If we were to put together all the private companies of India,
Can we say that they have more than a couple of million studios for lack of equivalent skill? I wouldn't say there are more than 100,000. The biggest company which does this work is Team team leads. And the team leads at any time has job openings of about a couple of lakhs and they aggregate accounts. They look about 8 million, 10 million new people forget in the past. Every year to create 8 to 10 million jobs. The number is humongous. We need to grow the size of the jobs rather than to find the existing job the person are not getting the job. So we're taking it at the wrong maybe.
And from the consulting industry, we don't get people for the right of the party, they're not trained for money. They don't get the kind of.
But you then hire somebody and
application on that is the problem.
yeah, but then you hire somebody and then train them and give them the job. And you see in Indian steel industry, 30% of the jobs are like vacant. 20%.
Yes.
20% of the jobs in steel industry are vacant.
Unlike no steel industry, generally the industry, in my industry, we have vacant jobs for I don't get the right people to work with. I am a social scientist, work for research and analysis. There's no training at all. We don't have a subject or a curriculum to tell people how to do that. Community engagement, community mobilization.
So one reason you have said skill don't fully agree to lack progress is skill.
Application work. It is.
Any other thing?
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, how you define the job? Actually, the definition of jobs is changing. Now, from the local level, the conventional jobs they are vanishing because it can be managed by technology. Like I have the biometric attendance machine. Then I will be register one person for that, that registration. It can be online. It can be automated. So high level skills are required. Now jobs are increasing as previous speakers said, jobs are increasing in IT sector. Technology, we are living in technology oriented world. So the skill gap is there. There is a skill gap. So we need trained manpower and there is a cost attached to the for IT skills. Now suppose I want to get employed in IT company TCS or but no, then I have to go do a training program and which requires cost. So I cannot bear that cost. So I cannot have the get those skills and go into TCS. So that is the problem.
So we go into this, but there's so many such dilemmas that we are going to face. All your answers are part of the currently believed plan, which is that if we skill our people, they will be able to pick their jobs. Absolutely not true to my knowledge, and it's not going to happen. And I'll just give you the figures. The fact that there are shortage of specific skill sector is correct, but that will not take care of the quantum of our labor force. That's what I'm trying to say. In America, if there is a unemployment rate of 2%, and that's a genuinely counted rate, the country starts going haywire. Today, more than 30 to 40% of our labor force must be unemployed or underemployed, doing some kelawala, the step of suicide. They're all unemployed, underemployed people. But our society is able to manage with this high level of unemployment for various reasons. And why that is so? That's the question that we need to ask. So I have an answer for it. But let's look at this. Let's just compare India and Japan. So this is the occupational structure and the output structure. It's very important for employment. So in India, 16% of the GDP, that is out of 100 rupees, agriculture produces 16, but it employs 49%. While in industry, it produces roughly about 30% of the GDP and employs only 20%. And here in services, it produces 64% of the GDP and only employs 30%. What this means is that an average person employed in farming, his income is 1/7 of that of industry or 1/10 of roughly of service. In such a situation, they would all the surplus people should move here and here where there are higher paid jobs. That's not happening. It's already happened in China. You see how China has reduced the percentage of people in agriculture, but forget that. Let's look at US. US is an ideal example. And what is true in US is true in whole of Europe. Just take it from me, you can see that. So you know US is a very big farming country. It exports wheat.
Yes.
They're famous. It produces 1% of the GDP and it employs only 0.7, which means an average farmer is better off
than an average person working in industry or services. Because people have moved from here to here. There is the farming stock. It's like number of people depending. So we have too high number of people compared to what agriculture can produce and share on this. And I'll tell you, agriculture production has increased so many times in India. That's another mystery, present mystery for India. But so why don't these people move here and get higher paid jobs? This is true for Maharashtra. I just told the figure of Maharashtra that per capita income in agriculture, average farmer gets 1/7 of that in industry. Why doesn't the person go to Bombay and get a job? So for me, we already talked to you. You gave about raising. My answer to this question is only labor laws. The proof of that is employment elasticity for manufacturing growth. So what is employment elasticity? If manufacturing grows by 1%, how much does manufacturing employment grow? Can you guess how much it is in China? It's roughly 0.6 point. That is for every, if China creates 100 yuan of new output, 70 new Chinese workers get jobs. If Bangladesh creates 100 taka of new production, their employment has also grown up to 0.4, 0.5. So they create, for 100, they get up to 50 new jobs. India, 0.1. India doesn't create any jobs with manufacturing growth. And why that is important? Because manufacturing is growing in India. You see, all the things that you're saying, it's a growing sector. We have been having a secular growth of 7 to 8% of manufacturing non-stop for the last 15, 20 years. And if manufacturing had an employment elasticity of 0.5 to 0.6, there wouldn't be a largest number of engineering colleges, you would be sending people all over the world. There's the one of the largest number of engineers being produced. So this is just one of the reasons. There's another much bigger reason. This is only the other bigger thing is if you're in Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia gets an idea, look, I'll stop all petrol cars in my country. So if Saudi Arabia says that it's not with an idea that all the tanks in Saudi Arabia will now become electrical, nuclear, save oil. We're all foolish. So much of surplus oil. There is a question of it. It's most abundant in us. What is the one thing which is most abundant in this country? And that is the only resource which industry and services is substituting against. In every new industry, you will get a person who will say, now in this industry, now that I said, it was only 2 workers. And maybe so. It's like the Saudi Arabian king saying, now I replaced 20 of my producers with new which I'm importing from France. So no national will do this when so much of cheap labor. This is the word cheap. Indian laws made cheap labor one of the costliest unproductive labor in the world. And now we can't compete with Bangladesh. Everybody will get against you in their cities. That's why I always use the example of Bangladesh. I've been to Bangladesh. The entire textile industry they have taken. On the back of what? Do they have more capital? Only on the back of changed labor laws. They went for fixed term contracts, just like China did 30 years ago. It doesn't exploit. You see, the problem is all these laws are meant to, whether it is Factory Act, Contract Labor Act, Industrial Disputes Act. This is my first point about competition. All of these laws are meant for safeguarding workers. Each and every one of these laws has increased the real economic price of labor to formal employees. People are performed out by going for contract and informal job, but that's bad. Because if you can employ workers formally, they get a better salary, they get better protection, and most important for the industry. If you have somebody permanent, you train that person and the person goes with you. Look what these companies are forced to do. I'll tell you why they have to do that. Every year they'll give out a contract for some boiler room cleaning, for that cleaning, that cleaning, and not requiring it. Because they are afraid of the factory inspector who will come and say, इसके लिए स्पीड नहीं रखा that used to be a cognizable offense. Industrial Disputes Act, if you have more than 300 workers, out of your savings you have created a factory. Suppose I come to your house every day and say, you fired your maid servant, you have no right to fire your maid servant. You have no right, you ask my permission if you want to fire your maid servant. We make such laws that if you have more than 300 workers, you need prior permission of the labor commissioner. Labor commissioner thinks what? That if I don't give permission, maybe I'm safeguarding jobs. The problem, sorry, the mystery is ease of firing leads to ease of firing. It's the other way around. The world works totally. The more easy you make it to fire people, the more Indian industry will absorb workers absolutely as a result. The more difficult you make it to hire workers, for every worker that they hire right from PPF to Boiler Act, the 57 acts, and on top of that, our union laws are totally wrong. You see, it does not bring any worker. There is no textile industry now in Mumbai. All the textile industry moved to Bangladesh. Why? Did our poor Tatas started textile industry in South Asia, and the Birlas, they suddenly became completely incompetent, lost all. Because one man called Dr. Datta Samant, whose personal livelihood was completely independent of textiles. He can continue to be a doctor and live well. In fact, he gets additional income from representing these unions. He brought the whole textile industry to a standstill. Today, there is not a single textile industry in Mumbai. Datta Samant is happy. The workers are still struggling for their basic wages. And the entire textile industry, in which India had a comparative advantage, got now, since 1700, from Bangladesh, from the time of Bengal, Bangladesh has more comparative. It's because we have a trade union law which says any person can be a trade union leader. It doesn't need to be a worker. We will just try to push one small change, say, yes, you can be a trade union leader, but you have to be working in that company. So then your future is tied to the future of the company. So you will push your management, but not that hard that it closes, it doesn't matter. All the important trade union leaders, you see them, unlike in other countries, unlike in England, that labor movement are not workers in any of those countries. So all of these laws put together have made the most important resource in India unnecessarily cheap, and therefore the quantum of jobs being generated every year, quantum of jobs being generated every year are too few. Compared to our, we can generate 8 million new formal jobs for the next 20 years, and that is what will get rid of poverty. So that's my first point. And this is what we did. I don't say from theory. Let's see what we did. So in Maharashtra, before the government of India has done it, when I was with CM, we amended the Factory Act and said anybody below 20 workers doesn't have any factory. Just exempted. It's exempted something like 100. So people could still rise to 20 without having a factory. We provided team license on the shop and I think 14,000 MSCs began out of the purview of factory. The same thing we did for contract labor. We eased the contract labor and then did a lot of boiler inspectors are very dangerous people. They go and collect a lot of stuff. So we said, okay, you have one boiler inspector. You can get yourself self-certified and put it on the website. If you find wrong, then you'll be penalized. Or you can go to an engineering college, credit fusion, they go to that. So you don't have to go to that one factory. So you see this is a real survey of CI. In Maharashtra, in 2019, 2.4 lakh permanent jobs, which are 30% of all those created across India. These 3 new labor codes which the government of India is the only answer to creating new jobs. It only reappropriates. It just reappropriates. It's important. It just in skilling. So how do you change labor? Because these are work beds. 60 years unions have come, they haven't realized. Today it's easy to change labor laws because formal jobs have become so few that the power of trade unions has gone down. That's why you can. But they have themselves disempowered themselves. If they had allowed industry to go on formal jobs seeking, today trade unions would be the most powerful force. So one of the things is negotiation and trade-offs. So in Maharashtra, also this all those changes can be strongly resisted by Shiv Sena because Shiv Sena has the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sena, which is very powerful. It controls all Patel, all the other things, and they won't allow us to change any of those labor laws. So what I convinced the industry minister, he said, ठीक है, ये आपके यूनियन को थोड़ी तकलीफ तो जरूर होगी, but see how 14,000 new factories between 10 and 20 will come up, which can create more jobs, which will all employ local Maharashtrians, which will do far more good for you than the few jobs that you will protect by this also. Basically, you have to do a trade-off. So there are losers and there are winners. You have to see if the winners are more and then only you can push this. Yet there was another thing which somebody was talking about skilling. So the only thing in skilling which matters for India is accreditation. Most of the unskilling, whether you do it or you don't do it, is just a tick box. So how does Germany do skilling? In Germany, there may be no engineers, but yet it's one of the most well engineered manufacturing country in the whole world. In America, why? When you're class 11th or 12th, you start entering a faculty of your interest, no force. Somebody is a very good, does things on the tools. He becomes an apprentice in some German factory. He gets paid while he learns. So you earn, pay to learn. And then he grows in that. And suppose the fellow says, "Memko ye kitab padhna hi nahi hai, I'm too fed up, don't want to study. I hate studying." Like one of our kids say that. Doesn't need to study. Because his apprenticeship skills can continue to get upgraded as he does that till he reaches a stage where he is the super engineer on that sector field and he gets paid at a salary which will be above that of a graduate engineer also. So this is the apprenticeship system. And Germany is a country of 180 million. They have usually more than 2 million apprentices. And India, how many apprentices India has? So if you were to hire an apprentice in India before this government came and changed the law, and suppose there was a shortage, you didn't get the minimum wages. Suppose it was a cognizable offense. Why should people take apprentices and do themselves? So again, the government has changed all that, made most of the deviations from the Apprentice Act compoundable and non-criminal. That's number one. In Maharashtra, what we did is they were up to Maharashtra is 2.5 months. The labor unions they exist. They apprentice आगे तो हमारे jobs जाएंगे. They feel like that. So in Maharashtra it was 2.5%. That is, suppose a factory employs 100 workers or 100 staff, only 2.5% can become apprentices. And secondly, there was another restriction which said that only ITI people can become apprentices in their given trades in the factories or communication. Because breaking and they used to go. So the youngsters are going there. They speak up. Somebody just studying English literature. What is he going to do if he doesn't get into UPSC, the only job that they. There are thousands of malls in Mumbai. There are hundreds of petrol pumps. There are so many large theaters. They can work as clerks on that thing. I was a vice chancellor of one university, and I would go into an ME chemistry class, MSc chemistry class, and ask, "Aapko kya karna hai bachon ko?" What would be? Want to become a teacher? Nobody. Every person who's learning post graduation has only one job. So universities are churning out people to recycle themselves. So then I took a meeting with, let's say, the local labs. Those who are in the industry. So we found local lab and the local commercial units. So at least take these informed youngsters as your summer interns for doing. So we can't employ them. Why? They don't know talent. So empowered guys don't know talent. I think that Amravati University just thought about working closely with these local. They would have changed the course of commerce to fix the same thing about the labs. Now, how does that happen in Europe? When you are in class 10, when you are in class 8, youngsters start going and working in small establishments to get job experience. So their studies are as important as the job experience. And that is only done to the apprentice. So in Maharashtra also, the apprentice act is now changed. Any trade can go. You can go to government and have. You don't need to be a technical person. You can have an apprentice as a clerk. You can have apprentice as a accountant, and of course you can have. That is the most important. 70% of the learning happens on the job. Even if you do MSc, PhD in chemistry, a simple lab in Amravati, a Mofussil town, cannot hire MSc person to do simple tests which that person has to do. You cannot. So that was the skilling part. It has to be done for apprenticeships. And we done through some media skilling. And we can do it. We need to increase our number of apprentices to 3 million, 4 million, but you will see how the job market. These are jobs also. You can investment. So this is the same thing. Investment. How do we push for very high growth one? So we have Swami Das, Sujit, and I thought that a lot of the work that you're doing is in this sector. But nobody doesn't want to increase exports. How will they increase on their own? But that's what we have been doing. But exports are only incentive. Why should we be incentive driven of 1.3 billion people? Why not? That's companies which can compete on their own without incentives. Any other thing? Because the incentives are wrong. What do we do with incentives? You want to export a car? Okay. The car sells for $1,000. Government will pay you $100. Why government give you? Why should the taxpayers fund that car export?
Each of doing business.
Yeah. So here we are swimming. If you are a swimmer, all swimmers are swimming with two hands and two legs. They're so coming first. Our Indian swimmer, on his one leg we put half a kg of dumbbell, on his another hand we put 2 kgs of iron. So now, what are these dumbbells? I show you this dumbbells. Then we put on the swimmer. So we have location for this. Start. You can't set up an industry closest to the port because there only rich people live. You can't set up an industry in Gadchur. China can set up in Sichuan and export directly from the port. That's a lot. We have to set it up in Gadchur where the additional cost. And say, हम लोग आपके इंस्टीट्यूट देंगे ना वो cost cut हो. अरे but first you tie him up and then say now we'll give you something to cut the rope. So this location policy also needs to change, which we change. Then there are various things about the mineral concessions. I won't go into it. Then we have industrial corporations. Even if it's an industrial area, like MIDC, you need 35, 40 permissions. Now, government only designated this as an MIDC. Why can't somebody who gets a plot just go and do it by taking pollution control and those are necessary. But then also there are locational clearances, building permission clearances. So all of these things tie them up too much. And then in urban development, in addition to the industrial clearances, the urban laws places other zone. This is industrial zone, this is non-industrial. And again, it's so everybody was trying to do something. There are so many laws to hurdle it. So it doesn't need the export incentive. It just needs all this. Because each of these laws, by the way, in economics, is not a law. It's a cost. You will get those permissions. Which adds to this country, both in terms of time and process. And therefore, you can't compete with China, Vietnam.
In China, there are laws, but there is a single window policy. You don't
the laws are very simple. See, they are very straightforward. Like for labor, right? And fixed term. 5 years, this is your output, this is your salary. Don't calculate. It's just one income. If it's an industrial free trade zone, none of the local tax laws. If it's a free trade zone, it's still an commissioner will go there. Just designation. So how we could increase the investments post those changes in Maharashtra. This is one area which I want to really talk because a lot of you are involved, as Balu was telling me, in evaluation of infrastructure. So big thing which has happened in India, very big thing. These are the good trends. Let me tell you this: there is no shortage of funds for infrastructure. So if you go abroad and you go to India, Indian trains are overcrowded. They can't walk in and get like today I want to go from here to I'll see the train is overcrowded. Such a good opportunity to create new jobs and new services. But solution ऐसा नहीं है गवर्नमेंट के पास नया रेलवे ट्रैक लगा के दे दे और कौन the railway budget for the last 2-3 years is such a leak they are not able to spend the entire routes you have seen national highways what's happening. Ports, our waiting time in PPT used to be 8 days, 10 days. And this the charge of the full cargo used to be less than the demurrage charges of the ship waiting unutilized in the port. So these type of things we created. So my questions to all of you is what if we have the money to make this infrastructure, why don't we have this type of infrastructure?
Land acquisition is a problem.
That's not so every single thing there is sometimes the answer is one single. It's impossible to get for any one of them. And those who have got like that, some things of the past, new things like metro, new ports, everybody has to go right to Supreme Court. So there is a Trimurti in India. So the Trimurti, you know what is the Trimurti? First Trimurti is the RTI. Babu will hate me for saying this. The RTI creates input for whom? Free press. So the RTI information goes to the free press. And then the third one, that is Shiva. PI. So from RTI you get the information. The press becomes widely known. It goes picked up by the PI. So no road from this area. No thing. On the environmental issues are also very sensitive, but the way it's working, it's not. Finally the road gets better. The port also gets built. So nobody won in the process. Neither did we stop it fully, nor we wanted that solution was. So land is the biggest issue. And what did we do in Maharashtra for that? So we did the opposite. We said we will not do land acquisition. For everything, opposite is the truth. So Maharashtra is not doing any land acquisition for any of its major infrastructure. This Nagpur Mumbai Expressway is one of the biggest projects. No land acquisition. And how the Rasta is not hanging in the air. How did it happen?
Is it through creating land bank major partners?
Partly. But most important is land acquisition is compulsory appropriation against your wishes by using the dominion of the state power. Take away your land and tell you, I'll take your land and this is the price I will. My price, as I said, is a bill. Man, whatever is this real price? And we will buy the land at a consensus price. And we put the city at 5 times the ready 5 times. Because of that same informal our ready general prices are so much below. So if we try to negotiate, land acquisition says you give them the general price plus 30%. It doesn't help them. And then most important, it's against the wishes. This is no against anybody's wishes. If you don't want to sell, it's okay. Once go for consensus purchase and once like 20 people sell their land at that price and see actually the money. Then with land acquisition takes 3 years, 4 years for you to realize the money. And after it realizes, some people go to court and again hold it up. So here, once you have a purchase between him and who is consensus for legal document. This is the magic that happened. I will show you this. So in railways, railway spending from 1960s. Only 164 hectares was employed. Hectares of land was between 2012 and 4. And in this, after that consensus policy, this is the thing. All those railway lines are for irrigation, right? 80,000 crores of incomplete irrigation tools. But once you get consensus purchase from the same period to same period, 4,600. So land on essential public projects has to be bought. This is Pareto optimal. Does anybody know Pareto optimal? You may get a also. No development is development. Unless the person who's made worse off is at least as well off as before. It is even better off. So better. The reason for that is in economics we cannot compare, measure unhappiness caused to me versus the happiness caused to her. So let us say I own the land and I lost my 5 acres. I'm very unhappy. But the road can transport to these 10 people and they're very happy. So we say they have got 5,000 units of happiness. I have got 100 units of unhappiness. That's the case for Nikas. This was our purpose. The Arab community says it's not comparable. Maybe my grief is so big that it's bigger than all the happiness in my life. It's not visible. So I have to be brought. And what is that? I don't know. I know it only when consensus level you are willing to sell that. Because if you are not worse, it's your decision. Even if it means 5 times. Exploit this. But well, they are only citizens of the state and they are only getting the state. So this is the policy that we adopt and it's a game changer. Many states are doing that now. Okay, now I just come to this point. There's some people from agriculture. So one of the next misnomer things is something which is astonishing about India. You know, India imported. India produces 1.5 times more wheat than America. This is the growth from roughly less than about 15-20 million tons to 110 million tons. The only wheat my man, look at rice. From roughly about 55 million tons, we have reached something like 150 to 150 million tons. And it's not confined there. So India is the second and third largest producers in both of this in the world. And fruits and vegetables. You would never expect this. They are the third largest producers in all fruits. So farmers should be well off. Think about lands. Think about Mr. Mukesh Ambani. If the Jio subscriber base is 2 million and it becomes 50 million, will he not do better? Yes. What will you do? What's happened to the farmers? They still not lost. No. They don't do. So why? That's my question. And this I want you to answer. The answer is found a lot of. My point is, I have seen this happening in my own whatever growing period. It used to be so disparate. And monsoon nahi aaya, to beach nahi aayega. From that to saying that we will, countries are asking us, please don't stop your wheat export because we will start. If India doesn't export, and we have 1.3 billion people, and we have FCI godowns reaching 20 million tons of surplus wheat. If we have all of this, Bangladesh is the largest recipient of Indian wheat. My question here is now, what is the Prime Minister's challenge to us, doubling consumption? Is to tell you, we have doubled everybody's income, doubled engineers' income, we have doubled TCS's income. They haven't doubled these people who are feeding us. So why? Huh? You're using the same logic again, but we have to precisely tell you what. So the position on a field more like people like working on that. What is the no, yeah, freedom to sell. Huh? Very.
Sir, I work for a subsidiary.
Policy. What is NABARD doing? NABARD is giving loans. To do what? To build more irrigation canals. What is that doing? It is taking now 10 million tons of wheat. Next year, we put it in 20. Should NABARD continue to do that?
Sir, sir, maybe farmers are not able to freely sell their products in the market and they are not getting the right price.
Why? This is very important. We are not understanding the reason behind.
APMC, they
Access to them.
the agriculture produce marketing. Like,
Well,
Those are finally.
They were made to give farmers access to recognized priced market.
So I was just listening to the news related to this farm laws. Only.
Yeah.
So there were people who were against these farm laws, and there were people who were supporting these farm laws. So now they are saying that if farm laws would have been implemented, it would have been much better for the farmers.
Yeah.
So you would have now this wheat ban. The government has banned the wheat export. So we could have sold that wheat at a very higher rate to the foreign countries compared to keeping it in India. So maybe the pricing issue of the final product.
It's actually true, but it's very important to understand the reasoning.
Diversification.
Diversity would help, but diversification is not happening again because, like the swimmer who is competing from India with 1 kg of dumbbell trying to his leg, our farmer is also competing with not 1 but 5 kgs tied to his leg.
Adding to that, sir, subsidies are also.
No, subsidies are to help them, they are not against that. So,
So,
second was the reason.
so I work with them. So the basic problem, all these while 70 years, we've been just focusing on production. Look at all other industries. What they are focusing on is marketing. What are we trying to do about marketing? I mean, and if you have a market-oriented production, you will there's scope for enough. So I think marketing is an issue.
Simple. See Mercedes. Can he sell even one Mercedes without pushing it down the throat of everybody? Get the Mercedes and ad campaign, this, that. Then somebody wasn't like it. But farmers don't have a marketing strategy. There is one more quantum. That quantum problem is what I wanted to explain to you. So it originates from this. This is an RBI study which shows that farm gate price is 40% to 60% of the consumer price. So suppose you are buying tomatoes at rupees 10 per kg in Delhi, the farmer is actually selling it at 4. Now, however much production you increase, he is not getting a share of the increased production. So middle. Now the question is, farmer is not a fool. Why should he sell? What is good? He will sell at 4 rupees when he knows this guy is going and selling at 10 rupees out there.
So there's no storage capacity which is available, which makes
Storage, preservation, etc. But
say
बस सिर्फ उतना ही होता तब भी चल जाता because this 40% and so let us say tomatoes are selling at 100 rupees but farmers getting 40 rupees. So there is a differential of 60 rupees. The 60 rupees is a huge profit margin. It can sustain India's from Jindal Steel to Tata's are buying Rolls Royce in England. You know, Tata has invested in Rolls Royce. And same is true for every single man. And you know what is the profit margin on Rolls Royce? 2% and 3%. So why are $500 billion of Indian investable surplus going to invest in Europe when they are not able to cash in on the 40 to 60% profit margin which is nowhere there in the world? So they are not fools that they go and buy these small margin investments of 2% and 3%. So that's what the profit margins are in those countries. Never more than 8 or 9%. That's what determines the interest rate.
because they can't purchase.
No, because the Agriculture Produce Market Act is something very interesting. And it has done it in such a cunning way that nobody can understand. And almost everything, even those who speak in favor of changing it, don't understand how it really works. So APMC works in only one simple way. It says in one taluka is a sub-district unit, you can have only one agriculture produce market committee. And here comes the catch. Those who are registered traders in that, only they can purchase. Now, if you say this to them, they say, any farmer can sell to anybody. Yes. As a farmer, you can go and sell to me. No law stops you. But there are about 400 million farmers, 1.3 billion Indians. So this 300 odd million farmers cannot go house to house and begin to sell, isn't it? But the number of registered traders, they should be in millions. Then farmer have choice. No, there are only a few lakh traders registered in the roughly 400 talukas. So for 1.3 billion people, the people who are purchasing agricultural goods are a few lakh. They have complete control. If 50 farmers come and say, I will not sell tomatoes to you, he says, go to hell. There are 60 others standing in line because I am the only purchaser of tomatoes and I am the only one who has a wholesale market out there. And that is why the margin there is high. So it is not a productivity margin. See, we have no problem if they were creating cold storages, if they were creating ketchup, if they were creating mango juice out of it. But because they are simply sitting, that is the best thing about India. Most Indian business, unfortunately, is like this. We buy land, we make it NA and sell it. Make it illegal. Previously, we would take a license by using our good things and sell it to a third person. Who would sell it to a fourth person? The biggest contractors, they get the job. Their core competence is not building a road. Core competence is getting a contract. And they sell it. Same for these traders. Their only core competence is to get registered in APMC and have enough money to buy the stock. And this was the law which was getting changed. All that was going to happen is we would have Air India, but we would also have India. And Air India people said, no way we are going to allow India. So for the farmers, they have no NGO, they have no what's the other way like Vistara. They have to go and buy only Air India.
But few states like Bihar, Maharashtra, they have implemented part of the agri.
So it has to come with the whole ecosystem. Most important is I am simplifying obviously. Once these laws get freed up, step 2 comes in, which is like the Tesco. Maharashtra has done it now. Maharashtra is only 2 years old on that. And Bihar is much older. So we have done it, all of this. We have to go to the second step, which is allow private investment. We have to get the Adanis of the world to not to invest in making cars, not to invest making electric cars or trucks. We don't need it. India surplus of that. But to invest in making ketchup, making orange juice, all of this. Because this is what will put money in the hands of farmers. And they are not allowed to get there. The third law, which is even worse. But I used to run the dal thing. Maharashtra is the biggest producer of pulses. So there is a ceiling on the total amount of pulses that you can buy. So suppose I am an owner of a dal mill and I want to grow big and I want to have a 5 million ton factory. I can't. I have a stock limit. I can buy, let's say, I don't know the limit, but 10,000 kg. But you know that the dal comes only in that season. So in that season, if I buy only, then my factory can run for the next 3 months, not across the year when there is no harvest. So I cannot expand in scale. That's why that act also got knocked out in the 3 acts that had got, and that also got restored back.
But does it have to be done state by state, like
States and for India is
coming for labor law? You said Maharashtra does.
So this is also done in India, Maharashtra.
So labor law is like we have to do it centrally or state by state.
Each state can do it also. Center का advantage क्या होगा? It's like school teacher can discipline the student better than the own mother. State government is much closer to its people. It depends on 5 vote differences to win a seat or lose. The central government doesn't depend on those 5 votes. That narrative. So they can do the broad policy. That is why they brought these policies.
They can make an umbrella framework.
Yes, because the big picture is more easily available than to the state government. So you have to know this. But they are not able to fight against the APMC lobby because for one MLA seat, that particular thing. For India as a whole, it doesn't matter if so that's how these laws came. But anyway, that's where we are. This was the agricultural board that we got out of that. So we have Gayatri.
I think she just stepped out. She just stepped out.
None of them going to any Gram Panchayat in this school. No. So answer is obvious. But did you know one thing? That even if I don't know which school
In or Bhopal, so
tell me the name of the school.
Sanskar Valley.
Well, do you know that your school teacher salary is less than the school teacher which is working in Maharashtra's remote schools? It's less, not by a small amount. It's less by a huge amount.
So the difference is almost about 1.7x.
Very good. But despite that, you wouldn't dare to put your kids in that highly paid school teacher's school, while we will go for that. So what's the difference? What I wanted to ask Pratham to tell you, because Pratham does not work on the company.
Yeah, she just stepped out.
What is the question? Question is government village schools have school teachers which are better paid than a private school in a city. Then why don't, including the rural, if those who can afford, not put their children in that village school, but go and pay a high fee in a private school? Why? No, same year की बता रहा हूँ जिसमें दोनों जगह क्लासेस हो तब भी
Quality of education.
Yeah, that's fine. School infrastructure. Yeah, school infrastructure is very good. You have to see the good states. So school infrastructure is better or at least comparable to most of the others. They don't have anything, but it's definitely better.
Monitoring of school is not efficient.
Yeah, so we still don't have Pratham yet. So let's just look at it. So this is the horrifying factor. You see the per child government spends 9,635 in Maharashtra per child, which is much more than a private school spends. Teacher salary and all other infrastructure. But look at the learning outcome. This is what Pratham is. This is from Pratham.
Wow.
So a class 5th student, only 48 in Maharashtra, only 54% can read to the level of class 2. And subtraction, which is a cycling, only 41% of students in Maharashtra, class 5 in a government school, can do subtraction. This is learning outcome. And despite paying the highest salaries to the school. So basically, it's about accountability and equals. Making the teachers own the result of their schools, which doesn't happen. So that's something that we can definitely work on. Anything which is not measured doesn't get done. So the teachers have got away with thinking that हम लोग पढ़ा रहे हैं पढ़ाना हो गया. They don't measure. Sir, they started this learning outcomes.
But Delhi has made government schools very other.
So I started learning outcomes and all. So they will improve. Government schools have to improve. Yeah, I think I've taken a lot of time now, 6:30, so we can open it up for any questions or. I had thought of 2 more topics, but just forest and wildlife will take too much time, and also yes, quick. Yeah.
Okay. So I think there are points that the laws and the acts which are that you have pointed out obviously have a very important role in terms of road improvement that is concerned. But if you just look at it one level now, some of the states have done some work. Let's say, for example, for I made a lot of money, the labor laws are changed. Thing on ENAM is being rolled out. The thing on some of the inspections and all those things, single window, a lot of things have been done. We still are not seeing that.
That's not Madhya Pradesh is the only state which has grown at 10%, like China, non-stop for 10 years. It's for no other reason. It's for all those states. So, and the only state which has re-elected CM state and for much.
So,
So you have
I would say that. You would say that. Of course, I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but that growth.
But still, it's pretty high. Whatever is
and how much is really high? It's high. It's come up. So my question, or rather my point is that is it just the policies or the institution behind that which really makes a difference? Something which is prevalent and which is taking up in some states is not happening in some other states. I think
there will be forerunners, but basically you're right. We have to create a whole culture for these rule changes to take place, and that takes time. Madhya Pradesh is at the forefront of those changes. So people have that has done a lot of it. So slowly these things will happen. But my basic issue is slightly different, and that's the important. It's market failure versus state failure. India grew up learning Fabian socialism, only concerned about market failure. Every intervention, every government program, every plan government is how to correct the market. So what did we say? Private sector will never produce steel. So we set up government steel factories. Private sector will never do marketing for poor farmers. So we set up cooperative market yards. What we didn't understand is, in the process, we created such a gigantic state that today the state failure is the biggest binding constraint. And how to reduce the state failure is what Prime Minister said. Less government, more governance. So it doesn't mean that having less labor laws means that we allow workers to be exploited and all. But let's govern that much that we can. Let's just enforce minimum wages. Let's just enforce some basic things and let get all workers to get the jobs first. And then in iteration two, we'll think about the hospitals, getting hospitals to be put in the factory everywhere. So this over regulation, which the state is not able to enforce, is the bigger problem. To do what we can do, that's the basic rule. Yeah, we do that, but let's do it. Yeah.
What do you suggest? How can we offset the human capital?
No, on that, we have got it right by default. Whatever good thing happened in India, it happens by default. So this good thing happened by default, what you just said. So Rajiv Gandhi talked about bringing computer age to India. And this really genuinely, India leapfrogged. Before we could manufacture basic parts of a car, we were providing software for the manufacture of the car for Germany. It was illegal. And that required, that's where again Rajiv Gandhi got it right. The Indian way. We'll go to US anywhere. Who's doing maths? Who's crunching numbers? So if we move into AI into high intellectual areas, the number of people required with the large number of engineering colleges, will keep absorbing it. What happened is that every time we are leapfrogging by default, it was not good that nobody got landline phones, but everybody got mobile. They just laugh at it. We missed a lot because then the internet didn't go to every house at that time, which should have. Similarly, we have leapfrogged into services because services are not regulated. There is no regulation which says that you can't fire 5 software engineers just tomorrow because you lose a job. There is no such. It doesn't come under industry groups. But Tata Steel, it comes under that. So Tata Steel doesn't increase its middle level workers. TCS can increase any number of software engineers or become low at the time of COVID. So this flexibility is very important, and It's available by default in many sectors. That's why you see, like the pressure is here and the balloon is going out here. So we didn't grow on our basic. Our textile industry moved to Bangladesh, but software industry came from California to India. So it's good, not so good. So yeah, so just I'll just talk for 2 minutes about forensics and biology. That's like my passion area. So here also everything what appears is the very opposite, and it helps you to think like that. So we have this Suraj Giva, Sunil Kumar, and Ashwin. Anything about India has been doing an afforestation program since 16. We've been planting trees since then.
And all the wrong trees.
That's of course. Yeah. But even then, we still don't have 33% area under forests. And we say 19% we learned in school is now down to 8 or 9% if we are there. And is this because we didn't try? For me, that is more important. Look at this effort. The fantastic thing. So this is China. This is India. This is in million hectares. From 1982 to 2014. This green line shows how many million hectares of new afforestation India did. So let's say 1982 it did 1 million hectares. 2006 it did 3.5 million hectares. In 2010 it did 2 million hectares. Okay. So we should say that the forest area should increase by at least half of this area under tree cover. I'm not talking about. So this graph shows the actual increase in tree cover. So even though we are planting 4 million hectares or 1.5 to 2 million hectares, the growth is this is minus 0.5. It even declined here, but 0.5 million hectares. So look at the effort versus result. Effort is 2.5 million hectares of trees planted, actually, but the growth in forest cover is less than 0.1 million. And look at China. So China planted 120 million hectares, roughly kept it there. And this graph, roughly they have been adding 40 million hectares to the tree cover. So why this? Yeah. Yeah. Think of the most atrocious thing. This bad. Huh? Yeah, but this figures include compensatory afforestation. You see, this sperm is up because Campamini came for compensatory afforestation. Partly that could be true. Nowadays, there is a very strict control on official law. Hardly any state can officially log its forests. Comes from government of India, very small. That's not the reason. The survival is the reason. But the answer is what is so funny. This is the answer. Do no plantations. The only third world country which has grown its forest is Nepal, next to us. From less than 17-18% mid Himalaya forest, they reach 65% coverage by not planting. Because man is not meant to plant. I can tell you 5,000 people by it only helps forest department and contractors and this. Who is the best planter? Insects and birds and nature. So natural regeneration of forest is the only way to grow forests. Only way which works. Nature is far more powerful than us. Any one tree, you see, we collect seedlings in small bags and then we go proudly and plant them all wrong. Why? Because let's say there's an amalthas tree. Do you know amalthas tree? Which has those yellow colored flowers? Or jacaranda purple colored flowers. So once it flowers, it sends out 1 million seeds. They all fall. All those flowers turn into fruit, then into a seed, and it falls on the ground. And if you just look around that after monsoons, only 2 or 3 jacaranda small saplings will be coming out. What happened to those 1 million seeds which fell?
The bees and the birds, pollen grains.
Survival of the fittest, simply. The competition for, see, of those 1 million seeds, there are some seeds which incorporate the best resilience to climate, the best resilience to seed and all. Exactly that seed comes out into a shoot like this, where all the others die. And natural regeneration, nature allows only that tree to go up. We don't know that. We collect all those 1 million seeds and put them in a bag and look after them like a hospital by putting water, fertilizer, so they become even softer. And then we put them in the poor jungle. And one fine day they can't bear all this. So natural regeneration. So basically, again in afforestation, not doing afforestation, it is the solution. Allowing the forest to be regenerate, we need to do a lot of things on that. We need to give local people the right to take use of products, including the things. So then they have ownership on that forest. That's the most important move. The second is we have to substitute in part their fuel wood requirements by new methods like cooking gas, etc. We have to substitute their fodder requirements. If we do all of this and create a local joint forest management committee type of ownership over the forest, then protection is the only way that forest can grow.
Sir, I have to say this. If I may borrow words of a forest officer, which he borrowed from a forest minister from 20 years ago. He said the best way to conserve forest is to not do any intervention.
That's right.
So forest department should simply be sitting, not planting anything, just to conserve the forest.
So what you said about forest is largely true also about government. The best government, more and more government, is the one which gets so well aligned to the basic instincts of its citizens that it creates rules and laws which allow the natural talents and instincts of its citizens to flower. So Switzerland is not producing steel, for example. It's not. I mean, if you had a planning minister, there is a steel name, you have to import steel, let's put up a steel factory. They know what their natural this thing is, and they're allowing that to flower. Here they're not allowing that. We're putting rules and laws to everything to stop what a natural person Indian wants to do in his gusto. That's the problem. I'll just tell you about wildlife. So in wildlife, forest guards don't protect wildlife. Poaching is not the problem. People who kill tigers are no problem. The only problem is conflict. So you see, this is Tadoba National Park, and there are so many villages inside. Now the villages are locked in a conflict where neither that village can suddenly aspire to become a mid-sized city where its children can, their children can go to good schools, and nor does it become a wildlife sanctuary which has got tigers and deer, because there are so many villages which are going out and doing all this on a daily basis. So their people are also suffering, and the wildlife is also suffering in this way. So basically, what we did is we had a massive program for voluntary relocation, and again with paradox. That is, if you relocate a village, it has to be better off than before. It's easier said than done, but government can afford it. It should not be paid. We hold conferences for 2 crores, and the cost of relocating a village is 50 lakhs. It's not done. We started paying them 5 times the land price plus irrigated land at the other end. And how many villages are there? 3 or 4 villages. Just relocating 3 villages from Tadoba did this. Both tigers and people are happy. So this is a picture taken in Tadoba, and that's the population growth of tigers. It's not important tigers. Whether they live or they don't live is not important. What's important is they signify an ecosystem which is very balanced. It signifies that there is a river called Andhari, which has got free flowing water for about 12 months. So the trees and grass and bamboo is there. And trees and bamboo and grass is there, that's why the deer are there. And that is only 2% of India's landscape. We are not talking about 20% of the forest area. We are talking about 2% of India's landscape, which can be set aside for them. So that we benefit, not they. So that the rivers come out nicely, so that the oxygen, the forest, and all of that. And there's no need for protection. People take, I mean, in this case, what happened was all the tourism revenue, the income coming from Ballarpur paper mill is less than the income coming from Tadoba National Park. Just the government revenue is more than 17 crores per year. The total number of jobs created on tourist guides, which is non-extractive, and if you can give it to only the local people,
is much more than any extractive industry like cutting bamboo and all can do without touching the forests. So this is what Switzerland learned. That's why they don't grow their income from selling their pine wood. They sell their scenery. And that's why Switzerland is the richest country. They only sell their scenery. We can do the same. And by selling the scenery, they don't do anything. So for our forest areas, for me, that's the only solution because we are too many. There are 1.3 billion people. If you think that all of us can extract pure wood, this, that from forest, there's not enough forest. But there's enough for this type of produce. And it also pays for so many things. Every single woman around Karoba now has an LPG connection not paid for by the government. You know who paid for it? Prime Minister Ujjwala scheme. Any other case? Huh? She paid for it. Tourism. Particularly she. This Maya digress seen by every single tourist who comes. I had Digvijay Singh was Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. So I should go a lot to Kana. But then when I became Secretary Forest, I stopped going to Kana because we moved all the villages out and you can see tigers and all wildlife in Karoba. I asked him, how come you're coming to Karoba for 10 days, the Chief Minister of MP? She brought so many tourists, paying so much, and that money is set aside in a foundation which goes to fund all the cooking gas connections and subsidy to replace the cylinder thereafter. And government doesn't pay it. It's the income of people who come to see. So I'll let you this.
So carries away proper chair. I'm not going to speak after listening to Praveen. I think you can understand why I admire his practicality and his ability to translate data into global actions. I think this is what the state needs, and so hopefully the practical information will be able to do with 2.1 million government officials. Any questions? That's a wonderful presentation. So I have not any questions, but very engaging presentation. Such a treat to listen to you. Thank you. All the time. I chair, I'm not going to say anything. Say it can be done. It's common sense, it's commitment, it's passion, and the desire to do good. If you just have that and your numbers are on your side, and it's very difficult to be confident because our universes require you to demonstrate competence in function. And we don't challenge you to be incompetent and afraid of trying competence. So hopefully the national education policy also created a space for you to explore, experiment, and be competitive with the coaches. And then a generation of people who know how to cheat. So thank you again. I just arrived last night. And then so I said we cannot go for talk. How we manage this problem. This done a wonderful demonstration of how we can all apply our minds. And now we look at some tools that you're getting. Hopefully, you'll also be confident you will understand of evaluation. Sometimes data in the hands of a person who doesn't understand how to apply in a way which it will grow people and it will be different. Gets used or abused also. I'm sure that the develop tools of data and data management, humanity is right rather than just data. Thank you.
So thank you so much. In fact, the biggest takeaway is I think for this session is kind of a hope session for all of us. I think there are problems true, but if we understand the problem correctly, we have a solution. We can even make policies work. The same policies what Mr. Praveen Pardeshi made work that can be possible for probably all of the sides. Using our evidences, using our data, we only shift our thinking from problem oriented to solution oriented. The biggest learning I take away sometimes is sometimes no intervention is best intervention in development and governance. I think making no policy is the best policy, what we say. So thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to Praveen sir. So I request now before we close the session, we have one request. We will release one of the fact sheets based on the study we have no, please, I'll complete. I'll complete. So we have done in Karnataka. It's on bicycle schemes. I know one or two teams will be happy to take a look at this. Bicycle schemes. Yeah.
Yes, sir. What's the wall?
Thank you.
That's not the only scholar.
Clean school environment. Yeah, I just wanted to add a few words coming from the development sector as such, and working with the industry and the government. The approach that Praveen has brought is inclusive, and it's not only inclusive, also application based, where it has been translated on ground and shown it can be done. That is one statement for me, at least for the first time I'm seeing of working with the government and the before 30 years now. So thank you so much. I'm at awe actually.